Okay, we talked about initial access. Let's see if we take all the malwares. In this case, we use a PICOS report. I love this report. And it's really talking about what are the different trends for malwares. If we take all those 200,000 samples of malwares and try to understand what changed, what do we see today? And with regard to the threat landscape, if we map those two techniques, how really malware work today? We talked about initial access, but what happens when the initial access happens? What happens when the malware runs? What are the places that you should focus? Because those are the most popular things that really successful. I mean, they're successful. There are a lot of them because they are successful. So one of the observations from this report, very important observation, the top techniques after taking those 200,000 malwares and mapping those to MITRE, the top techniques are using defense evasion techniques. So they basically apply defense evasion techniques to evade security solutions, to become and be stealthy, to really succeed in their attack goals. They have to go through defense evasion. And they took 200,000 samples, they validated it, and they find out, again, execution. You take here signed binary proxy execution through legitimate Windows processes, process injection, again, executing through the memory of other applications, basically injecting your malicious execution, stay stealthy, stay fileless, living off the land, stay in memory. So, I mean, if this is so successful, why not everyone using it? So everyone are starting using it because it's so much successful. So 5 of the first one are defense evasion. We also see that at least 4 here of the top 6 techniques are also in memory. You don't have to be evasive and be in memory. But it's the fact that at least 4 are evasive in memory, which means, again, it works because of challenges of existing security solutions that cannot scan the memory all the time at any given moment. Because again, the state changes all the time. It's very hard to scan all the time. It may have a significant impact on performance. Just a couple of statistics from our database, just looking at specifically focusing around backdoors as a way of persistency, as a way to maintain an entry after the initial access to your organization. I mean, everyone here heard about Cobalt strike, Metasploit as a backdoors. Right now, there is some increase with brute rattle as well, which is full in-memory variant. So we see those obviously a lot, and there's an increase of backdoors all the time. And you can clearly see by the charts, the increase of use of Cobalt strike and Metasploit are significant. And again, those are still there in-memory components. So it adheres to the report that we reported before, talking about defense evasion techniques, in-memory still there evasion from security solutions. Now, we'll talk in the next slide a bit more on the gap. Moving target defense, which we are talking about, needs to help reduce the risk to fight against the gap. The gap is essentially those 277 days, as I mentioned in the report, that still we need to minimize. The breach cost, we saw the numbers vary. They can be 4.3, 597, depending on the sector, and the industry is significant. So can we reduce this risk further? Can we help to eliminate the next breach that will cost you 4.3 million or 5 or 6 million? I would say yes to many of those cases. Just one more slide. Why is the current security solution are challenged with really solving the in-memory fileless type of techniques or malwares? This is very technical, so I will not get into the images too much. But when the application executes, its state constantly changes. In order to locate and identify malicious code or malicious pattern with this application during execution time, you need to scan the application all the time. You cannot scan the application all the time because it has immediate impact on the system, right? So security solutions said, okay, our scanning of files works, so why not doing the same approach and scanning the memory all the time for similar signatures or patterns? So this is based on hooking. This is based on specific times and points and events. The problem with that is all the visibility lacking. Between those point of time that you scan, you still do not know a lot. So you don't know 99% of the times what happens inside the code. So for the attackers, it's convenient. This is why they use evasion. This is why they use stealthiness. This is why they use memory, because again, they cannot be scanned and they can cherry pick the time that the malicious code executes. So there is a problem. Obviously, they can also tamper and hooks, which is easy. and it's being done again and again and again. So we have a problem. The gap is clear. We also find out that in the financial industries, as well as other industries, there are a lot of steal theory in-memory type of attacks initiated from, again, social engineering, exploitation, child access brokers, etc. We get to a position in which many of those attacks need to go through defense evasion. Many of them are going through memory to evade the detection. So we said, okay, so the core's traditional approach doesn't work. You cannot scan all the time. Let's play the cat and mouse with the attacker. Let's change the target system, how it looks like all the time. So we said, okay, you have a different vectors, attack vectors that will for sure get to memory to evade. Let's prevent them there. When they look for something that they think they know, we'll change that. So take an example of a threat vector credential theft. For example, when you target a specific password, take Mimikatz, for example, or browser stealer, info stealer, any of those credential stuffing kind of problems, you specifically target an offset or structure of an application. And when you target that, the structures have been changed, again, by Morphisec. And instead, you find out things that we implanted there, that we left in there. And try to read those, decrypt those, you're being caught. So it's a different approach. Instead of scanning, we're changing the target, and the attacker fails. The same with shellcodes, the same with exploits and supply chains, similar kind of techniques. We shake the ground beneath the attacker. We change and create the attack surface unpredictable. It's a very different approach because, again, the traditional approach doesn't really work. And with moving target defense, Morphisec succeeds again, prevent many of those stealthy attacks. Getting to the last slide, our perfect optimal solution that Ken suggests is having those 6 DRs in place, which we saw, according to the different reports, are vital to your security posture, to your visibility, to reduce the attack surface by 30%, more or less, to have obviously your backups working, at least on the servers, and validate those working, apply hardening, and implement moving target defense layer, defense and depth solution in place. As soon as you do that, you basically make your attack surface harder than your neighbors. So basically, just need to be more secure than a different organization. It's easier to be attacked. I hope I showed an interesting kind of view and an interesting innovative approach.